Blended Learning, a guide for elementary teachers. Blended learning uses the advantages of both online and face-to-face environments. It is not just having students use their one-to-one devices in lessons. Blended learning models help give a balance between traditional face-to-face personalized learning and e-learning experiences that are flexible and timely. Blended learning helps facilitate the learning process for all students. There are a few elements that can be seen in a blended learning environment. Some of those elements include differentiated instruction and pacing, personalized learning to students' interests, aligned virtual and classroom instruction, balanced virtual and classroom instruction, focus on the learner, material is adaptable and authentic, the curriculum is future focused, There are 4 types of blended learning models. There is the rotation model, the flex model, the self-blend model, and the enriched virtual model. I'll be focusing on the rotation model and the flex model because those are 2 that can be implemented the easiest at an elementary school level. To start off with, there is the rotation model, and there are 4 types of rotations within that model. The station rotation model is where students rotate on a timed schedule through different stations. Stations can be small groups with the teacher, online learning activities, independent skill and concept applications, and games. A lab rotation requires students to go to the computer lab for their online learning station, which then the data gets used to inform classroom instruction. The flipped classroom has students learning primarily online outside of the school and then completing projects or working in small groups at school. The individual rotation has students following a set schedule of rotations that personalizes the blended learning experience for each individual student. One way a station rotation can be used is during math time. Students can be grouped by their ability level and rotate through various stations depending on how many stations the teacher wants to set up. The stations can include individual practice worksheets, online learning websites, games, and small group with the teacher. The teacher will still have to spend time differentiating individual practice worksheets for students, but it will be easier to do based on the data that the student receives from online websites that students are participating in during the station rotation. The other model that can be used easily in an elementary school is the flex model. In this model, online learning is the backbone of instruction. Face-to-face instruction is provided on an as-needed basis for students and may vary from week to week. Teachers can provide students with primary instruction through different online websites while supporting students who are in need of more support learning the content. This model supports self-paced student instruction but requires students to be more self-directed learners. The application in this model can be seen when teachers use educational websites to have students learn lesson objectives and content. Some websites that teachers may use include Freckle, ExactPath, IXL, or Khan Academy. Students who struggle with the online concepts will meet with the teacher to review the lesson objectives and receive additional instruction to help them be more successful. This model may also include additional teachers pushing into the environment to take small groups of students and help them learn the lesson objectives. There are multiple advantages of having a blended learning environment. Teachers are able to have more time for discussions and higher order thinking activities during face-to-face interactions. This is able to happen because teachers may provide introductory videos or materials online, then go deeper into the topic when meeting one-to-one with the students. Also, teachers are able to better personalize instruction for students, and it allows for different paces and styles of learning for students. So students have more choice in their learning through a blended learning environment. Students also have more access to resources when using a blended learning environment. There are multiple communication platforms that allow students more interaction with the teacher and with other students to work on the collaboration skills, which means that collaboration is enhanced through the blended learning environment due to the multiple exchanges students can have with one another. Also, the learning becomes more interesting and mobile through the internet and multiple delivery platforms. So this helps in keeping and retaining the attention of students who are 21st century learners. Another big benefit is that teachers will spend less time printing out materials and having to personalize the materials on their own, because there are websites that will assist the teachers in doing this. There is no one-size-fits-all process for designing and delivering a blended course, but there are some general guidelines and tips that may prove useful for those getting started with blended learning. The first tip is to select a technology tool that adapts to each student's abilities. The instructional program that is chosen must have the ability to collect student data. The program chosen should recommend next steps for the teacher in order for them to provide intervention to the students and embed assessment and teacher-led instruction. And the program should provide resources for teacher-led instruction so that teachers know how they are going to support their students. Some other important components to the process of blended learning is choosing how you are going to implement blended learning and include the components. There are 4 components that should be included, which are face-to-face, so that could happen individually or in small group. Individual needs to know what's the model, how often does the student need to meet with you, what is the purpose of their individual work. For the online section, you need to know the goals, the content, how the website is differentiating, and how you're going to assess students. Students need to be given collaboration opportunities, so how students are going to be working with one another, either online or in small group. And then for small group rotation, what the groups are going to look like, how often you're going to be meeting with students, or if other teachers are going to be coming in and meeting with the students. As far as going about implementing blended learning, you need to have a plan as to what type of blended learning you want to use in your classroom. The best is to start small. Using a backwards design is a great way to go about implementing blended learning, making sure your blended learning environment has routines that are set up for the students so that they know the expectations. Make sure you're using your data that you're given for your students, and the most important part is to be reflecting on what you are doing and making changes that will benefit your learners in this process.